Do you have dreams of becoming that go-to real estate agent? This is something that I talk to a ton of real estate agents about, and they all want to make it happen, but sometimes they just struggle getting there. Today, we're going to dive into exactly what strategies I use to build a vendor list, leverage that vendor list to be the go-to real estate agent in my community, but more importantly, for those other small business owners in my community. Do me a favor and hit that like button if you're ready to take your vendor list and your networking skills to the next level. I'm Jeremy Kane with the Real Estate Agent Playbook. Excited to dive into this as I've done this on multiple occasions with my vendors, with my industry partners, and it's a very exciting way to build business. So I'm excited to share that with you. If you like what you hear, definitely give me a thumbs up. And if you are interested in more content like this, be sure to subscribe to the channel. But let's get into it. As we kind of break this down, the power of networking is unmatched, especially right now. As you may have heard, the Zillow changes and, the ads, Facebook ads and things like that, they're always changing and they're becoming less and less consistent, providing true leads. And so as an agent, we need to make sure that we're having conversations and kind of generating our own. We can't always rely on technology just to provide our income because it changes so much that it's hard to dial in. Building these relationships with these people in the industry is absolutely the number one thing you should be doing as the market slows. Lenders and inspectors and all the people that you work with on a day-to-day basis are less busy because there's less transactions. So now's a perfect time to dive into this. But it's also networking in general. As a real estate agent, you're about 15% real estate, kind of law, kind of that, and about 85% marketing, because if you don't have clients to practice the law and the real estate part of it, then you get in trouble. So let's really dive into how this works. So networking is key. Everywhere you go, you should be having networking on your brain, trying to have another conversation with a new person and doing that. My introverts, this is, obviously something you're like, oh, nope, I'm not networking. Once you hear that networking word, you're out. You need to make sure that even if you're an introvert and you are in these situations where there's other people, maybe just have a different strategy to pull them in. Maybe, pull them aside and say, hey, I'd love to pick your brain, go to coffee, you get in that one-on-one, and you're a lot more, dialed into that. And that's where your energy comes from. So understand I'm an extrovert, but this is also very important as an introvert as well. So you need to take to heart this phrase. It's not what you know, it's who you know. Absolutely next level for your real estate career. You got to know the people that are connecting you. It's not like, you got to know the starting quarterback of the football team or whatever. It's just these people that are dialed in, right? Everyone's going to have a different interest, right? If you're, a sports guy, maybe it's, something to do with sports team. But if you're not, if you're, a librarian or you're into politics or whatever, know those key people who are connected, right? It doesn't matter if they're famous, but if they, are constantly connected, that's where we really dive in. And we want to make sure that we're making those connections with those people that are having conversations. Therefore, you don't have to have the conversation all the time with the potential, buyers or sellers, right? It's so much easier when it's like, hey, Johnny told me that you were the best real estate agent. We're thinking about buying a house in X. Right? Boom. That's way easier than, hey, what's your name? What's my name? Small talk, back and forth. Oh, I'm a real estate agent. Oh, I'm, my dad's a real estate agent, whatever. Okay, next conversation. Like you don't want to spend a lot of time with that. And you don't want to go into any conversation with just real estate on the brain. But in these situations, when you're kind of on the prowl and networking and you're trying to build that business, oftentimes we come out very commission breathy. So we want to make sure that we're connecting with connectors and our number one intention is helping them. So why a vendor list? This is a common term used in the real estate industry. It's very important to understand that you as a real estate agent and with your conversations about homes and personal residence and things, people are going to ask you for HVAC contractors and carpet cleaners and, this and that. And so that's where we really want to make sure that we have, the go-to people. So building that vendor list is super important, but a lot of agents just build this vendor list. They don't ever nurture it. They don't ever do anything with it. And they just send clients to it, right? You have to have conversations and build relationships with these people so that you can actually get reciprocal business. And it's not going to be, 100%. It's not, hey, I'm going to go to a different lender because I want to get leads. Like that's not going to happen. Like lenders don't just produce leads out of nowhere, like that you can't produce. So you want to build that relationship. And once you find that relationship and you're building business together almost as a unit or a group, if you're in a networking group or whatever, then that's where it really comes to play. And you're bouncing stuff back to them. They're bouncing stuff when they can back to you. And also understand that, the whole purpose of this is to get referrals and do that. But when you give an HVAC contractor a referral, their profit is probably, I don't know, $150, $200 a call, depending on what it is. If it's just a cleaning or whatever, when they give a referral to you, the profit margin's much larger, as you know. So make sure you keep that into perspective when you're like, oh, I've given them 10 leads and they've given me 1. Well, you probably made more from the 1 than the 10. So we have to really step back and be careful because we're building these galvanized relationships. We're not just building this transactional feeling. We're building lifelong relationships with these people that we already know, like, and trust, that we know when we send, Johnny the plumber out to Susie's house that you just sold that has a leak, that he's going to take care of him. He's going to service him time. He's going to be fair and ethical, and he's going to do the job right. And so that's where you really start to build that relationship. And I've had this happen several times. Like I have somebody call in and say, hey, I need to, have my furnace cleaned, right? Well, the furnace guy's like, well, we're booked out for 2 weeks. I call and say, hey, just tell him that Jeremy sent you. Hey, Jeremy sent me. He's listing my house next week. Give him some context. I need you out here. Is there anything you can do? Yeah, absolutely. We'll get you in. Boom. And so it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. So utilize that and train your clients, especially if they're making the call and you're not making the introduction, to kind of name drop and get in there because, that vendor has a serious relationship with me, right? Where I'm going to send him multiple deals, or leads per se per year, where this cold call, coming in doesn't know where it's from. That's not the same. So building that true valued relationship, also knowing, right? We must remain ethical when we're doing this because you don't want to just send your, sister's company out there and, maybe they don't do a great job, right? So your vendor list needs to also understand what your standard is, what your standard of care is, because real estate agents are huge relationships for any industry that has to do with the home and others, to be honest. And so if if they know that you're going to send them more and more business and they know that that's a key relationship, they're going to make sure that they're taking care of your clients. However, some people just aren't that way. Some people just don't know what they're doing. Some people are smoke and mirrors. So make sure that you're vetting these people and you know the service and care and you have a standard with them. I've had to tell vendors, sorry, like it was a good run, but you're out because of XYZ. And then they're like, oh, okay. And maybe they adjust and maybe they come back in or maybe they don't. So the next thing is, once you have the vendor list, pour into it. Put them in situations to network with other people. Business mixers, happy hours, all of those things are great ideas to invite people to, right? And maybe you just have a vendor happy hour where, people are meeting new people and you're kind of the cog in the wheel for them to get into that, bring themselves out of, work mode and meet other people that they can also, build their business with. And so that's a huge thing. And when you're doing that, use social media, blow it up, make sure, you have these groups. The VIP client group is a kind of a phenomenon that, is very difficult to maintain as an agent, but you're offering little discounts, you're driving business. And then you say, okay, all these people are gonna be at this business mixer, right? And maybe it's not even client facing. Maybe that's a B2B business mixer, right? It's just people who are professionals that can help each other out, maybe connect, not about work, whatever that is, because then you're building a real community versus just the business transactional feel within your vendor list as well as your client list. Because we know how important it is over here, but do we take that same thing and do we incorporate it into our vendor list? Usually, probably not. Leave a comment below if you have that one vendor who's absolutely crushed it. Just put their industry. Obviously, you don't have to name them if you don't want to. If he's your electrician or whatever. But what what industry have you absolutely capitalized and flourished a relationship that's been very lucrative for both parties? Put that industry below in the comments. And then finally, once we have this, you must audit it, you must review it, you must make sure that people are still in the business. There's nothing worse than getting a referral. They call somebody and they're like, hey, Jeremy gave me your name as an electrician. Oh, I quit being an electrician 2 years ago, right? What's that say about the rest of the thing? If you're not current in your vendor list, you can get called to the pavement real quick, and it's a bad look. So make sure you're keeping it updated. Those business mixers on a regular basis will really help. Make sure, people are kind of staying in and bought in. But you want to make sure, also within the industry, this is kind of crazy, just kind of came to me. But if you have this lender and you're sending them business, you haven't sent them business for a while, or maybe they're that third lender on your list, and you're sending it over, and then someone calls and says, hey, Jeremy told me to call you, and they're a real estate agent now. You never know, you could lose a deal. So make sure that you're keeping up to date with it. Make sure that you're still, reciprocating as much as you possibly can, having those conversations, making sure those connections are great. Also, people change, right? So general contractors, this is my favorite one. All handymen become general contractors within a month to 3 years after they start the business. If you have a true handyman and they're still in the business 5, 10, 15 years later, absolutely, hold on to them. But you don't want to send, have a general contractor have to take a call from their busy day and say, hey, I have to get smoke alarms put in my house. Jeremy told me to call you, right? Because that's a negative effect on, from the vendor, right? Well, Jeremy, why are you having me waste 15 seconds, 20, 30 seconds on a call? Because as those entrepreneurs build up and they get busier, you want to make sure you're updating the vendor list to know when to call them and why to call them. And so you can do that in multiple ways. Spreadsheet's probably the best way, write it down, but obviously keeping up to date with them, you'll kind of know. But as always, once you get a huge list, it's hard to keep track of everyone. So I hope that helped build that vendor list. If you are interested, I have a free mini course on connecting with the connectors, and it kind of goes into this a little bit as far as finding those uber connected people, because it's a bonus if you have a client that can be on your vendor list. Then you have a ton of opportunity to really expand that relationship and take it to the next level. Please like, comment, subscribe, share the podcast, and we'll talk to you soon.